Episode 190. She could no longer afford his love. Retching and retching, Serena vomited up some fluid but nothing else. She had only taken some water in the last 24 hours. Feeling dizzy, she lay down and fell asleep again. When she woke up, it was past 8 a.m. She felt her hand being held. She wiggled and held the hand that was holding hers, only to wake up to the man that had fallen asleep. Jake felt her forehead and then his, frowning. Looking at him, Serena felt a bit dazed. There were shadows under his eyes. His hair was messy, and his chiseled face had not been shaven. She noticed the clothes that looked familiar, but the man still looked terrible. A pad of gauze was stuck to his forehead, a bit over his left eyebrow. Realizing it was him, Serena pursed her lips and teared up. Startled, Jake asked softly,
"Do you feel uncomfortable? Is something hurting?"
She cried, grabbing his hand. "It's hurting all over." His eyebrows knitted together. He reached out a hand to wipe her tears away. She suddenly shrank back and exclaimed, "Don't touch me!" She couldn't have him care for her so much, only to later leave her. Avoiding his touch, she felt even more worse. She bit her bottom lip and sobbed. Jake paused and looked at her.
"What's wrong?"
His deep and dark eyes were filled with worry. Serena could not help herself and burst into tears. "Mr. Robinson, I might die. Maybe I could never be with you again." Serena could not put it into words. Squeezing his hand, she cried like an abandoned kid, desperate and truly sad. Jake helped her up and took her into his arms, patting her back. Before she leaned in, Serena wiped her tears dry with her sleeves so that her tears would not fall on him. Grabbing his collar, she took in his scent greedily, feeling desperate.
"It's all right now. The old woman was in custody, charged with murder. I will hire Uncle Dan to argue the case and make sure justice is served."
Daniel Brown was the top lawyer in Austin. With him fighting their case, Mrs. Cox would at least be sentenced to more than a decade no matter what she did. "How did you find me?" Serena choked and asked.
"I looked for you everywhere."
Jake rubbed her head and said softly,
"Eat something. Grandpa brought warm-flavored milk for you. He wanted to stay here until you woke up, but I chased him away."
Serena chuckled and gave him a push. "You're so bad. If he knows you said that about him, he would kick your butt." Jake held her hand and hugged her tighter. Thinking it was only a few moments ago, he thought he would never get to hold her again.
"Mrs. Robinson?"
"Yes?"
"I almost thought I had lost you forever."
Jake's voice was trembling.
"Fortunately, you're okay."
Serena almost teared up again. Pushing him away lightly, she squeezed out a smile and said, "I'm hungry." Jake nodded and put 2 pillows behind Serena's waist to make her more comfortable before he turned around to drink the milk. Hugging the blanket, she couldn't stop her eyes from tearing up. Seeing his figure, she felt her heart wrench inside of her chest. He had never treated someone so nicely, not even Grandpa. This man loved her. However, she could no longer afford this love. "Jake." Serena bit on the comforter and caught him. Without turning back, he answered,
"Yes?"
There was relief in his tone because she had been rescued. Hearing his voice, she hugged the blanket tighter and called again, "Jake."
"Yes."
Jake turned around to look at her and found her face covered in tears. He brought the hot milk to her and placed it on the table.
"It's all right now. Don't cry."
He moved to wipe her tears away like he used to. But Serena dodged his hand and buried her face into the blanket. He thought she was still terrified, but that was not true. Rather, she was scared of...
Come here. Have some milk.
He lifted her face and took the cup to her lips. She opened her mouth and drank it. Her fever was getting better, but her appetite was not. It took her about 15 minutes to finish a cup of milk. Without any impatience, he insisted on feeding her another cup. She forced herself to take 2 sips, but in the end she could no longer drink. Jake finally gave up and put the milk away. I want to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
He grabbed the down jacket he had brought for her and put it on her shoulders, before he lifted the blanket and carried her in his arms to the bathroom. Serena had been transferred to the VIP room with a private bathroom. After peeing, she opened the door. He carried her back. I have to wash my hands.
Don't get yourself wet. Use a wipe.
He put her down on the bed and gave her a sanitizing wipe. With a blush, she slowly wiped her hands clean. Sloppy.
That's you.
He arched an eyebrow. She threw the used wipe in a trash can under the bed and gazed at his forehead. What happened to your head?
I bumped into something.
Jake reached out to adjust her blanket properly.
Rest some more.
Serena knew he was trying to change the subject, and so she gave him a little push, insisting, That does not look like it.
Bad luck. It was bleeding, so I had to put some gauze on it.
He sounded calm and a bit helpless. She would take his word for it for now and said, It was Charlie Ron that saved me.
Yes, I know.
Where is he now? He was shot, and I heard he had lost a lot of blood and is in the ICU.
I went to see him. He's doing better than you.
As a major from the army, he was much stronger than Serena was.